Hello, and welcome to Career Landscapes, a peek into professional lives, brought to you by One Voice for Change. I'm your host, Felicity Minch, and today we are speaking with journeyman inside wireman William Wagner. I'd like to take a moment and read a little bit about him. William Wagner is a journeyman inside wireman with 6 years' experience in commercial and industrial construction. He got into the trade at age 18 and pursued a 5-year apprenticeship, which led to getting his state journeyman wireman license at age 24. Having a father who worked for the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, he was referred to Joint Local Union number 68 and give the Denver Joint Electrical Apprenticeship Training Center a try. His father warned him that being a journeyman pays well, but it takes hard work and grit to show up day in and day out and put in the sometimes grueling work to get a job done. William came to realize that the hard days, hard projects, and sometimes hard to work with crews would pay off not only in ways of money, but in friendships, learned work ethics, respect for craftsmanship, and accomplishment for completing monumental projects. For William, there is never a dull moment. Welcome, William. I'm so happy to meet you.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to meet you as well.
Oh, well, I'd love to just start out the interview. Tell me how you got into this. I had heard that you weren't sure what to do after high school. And yeah, give us a little insight to your beginnings.
Uh, yeah, so I was in high school. I have a King Supers and a bagger slash cashier, and just kind of lost with where I was going to Red Rocks Community College, kind of trying to get some prerequisites out of the way, and just kind of not sure what I wanted to do for the rest of my life this day. And so uh I was about, I'd say, 6 months out of school, and that's when my dad kind of mentioned to me about the trades. And I grew up with him, obviously working as a journeyman as well all my life. So kind of got to, I guess, kind of awe about doing that someday as well. Also, he wasn't totally like, how do I say, he wasn't like really wanting me to get into the trades at first, just because, I mean, the industry was a little dangerous in the beginning, but it's come a long, long way now. So, I mean, by the time I was out of high school, he's kind of like come around to the idea, and he, mentioned it to me like, hey, this is probably a good route if you want to try it out. And if it's something that I don't like, it's, you could change it up after if it's not working out. But yeah, I gave it a try, and the rest is history. Really, really do love it. And yeah, yeah.
It's great. As a kid, were you interested in anything electrical, or as a kid, did you kind of lean this way towards electrical devices and electricity and
Um,
wires,
you know,
tinkering?
like electricity wise, not too much. Like I always like to kind of like take things apart and try to put them back together kind of thing, but not necessarily like it wasn't just electrical driven, I should say. I'd say, I don't know, I like tools. I like to help my dad with projects growing up, and
Mhm.
definitely was always interested in working with my hands. And that's kind of the way I learn as well, is hands on. So I kind of all aspire to this, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, great. Great. Do you have a typical day, or is it every day different?
Every day, every day is pretty much different. I mean, when you start doing, especially when you first get into the trade, everything is kind of new, and so there's nothing that's going to become repetitive at first. But I mean, I over to see certain tasks, certain projects that will become repetitive, but it's, for the most part, everything's kind of different. Every job has its own, hurdles, and you always kind of keep staying on your toes. So
Yeah. And you said you worked on projects in hospitals and I-70. What kind of projects do you work on, and can you describe them?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I've worked on. everywhere from hospitals, data centers, I-70. We have a few different traffic projects that we help out on, and yeah, I-70 being one of the probably the coolest projects I've done. Actually, it was we were dropping it from the viaduct down into a tunnel, and there's a elementary school, Swansea Elementary School, and there's a cover top that go. It's called a cover top. It's basically uh the top part of the tunnel above I-70, but there's a park, an amphitheater, and uh, multi-use fields. It's just like a lot of different things that you kind of get your hands on. Different projects, each kind of come with their own scenarios. But
And I take it you work with teams, you never work by yourself.
correct, yes. Really, everything we are today is electrical industry as a whole has a lot of different routes you can go, and some of those routes will be kind of more like a service route where you're a service electrician and you are kind of on your own. But what I do inside a wireman, we work on crews. We have a foreman who's our essentially leader of the crew, and there's the journeyman and then the apprentices. And so right now, I'm still trying to finish up my schooling right now, so I'm still considered a fifth year, but I have my license and everything, so I am a journeyman at the same time. But for me, I'm kind of like my own solo journeyman on this crew, if that makes sense. But no, we're all one big team, and we do the team splits up. Let's say it's like two of us will go work on a little bit of a task over here. Two other guys might go work on a different task. But there may be eight of us as a whole on the crew.
Hmm. Can you describe what the titles mean? What is journeyman? I mean, what does like a foreman do? What's the journeyman? What's the apprentice? And are those the only three categories of electricians?
No, so essentially let's start off the apprentice. The apprentice is you're going to school and you're doing in class schooling, but you're also doing on the job training.
Hmm.
So apprentices will always be paired with a journeyman. And so usually on jobs I've been on, we keep it as like a ratio. It's like a 1-to-1 ratio or 1-to-2, one always and then if you have two apprentices and the journeyman's always teaching the apprentices. So the journeyman's essentially like you have enough competency and enough skill, like the company will recognize you as being that as an individual, where the apprentice is still learning and trying to kind of get a feel for the field. And then the foreman, they basically are like the boss essentially of the journey. It's kind of like a management kind of scale, I guess you can say. It's like the foreman will manage the journeyman on, and the journeyman kind of manage the apprentices. And then it does go higher up above that in the four. So that's really all we see in the field. And then from foreman, it goes general foreman, and the general foreman are the guys that look over the foreman.
So I'd like to ask, what's the difference between the apprentice, the journeyman, and the foreman? And what are each of their responsibilities?
Yeah, so I'll start with the apprentice. The apprentice is basically you're going to school and you're doing in school work, and you're also on the job. So you're working and you're going to school, and you're doing the on the job training, and you get your hours that way on the job while you're getting schooling hours. And so those both play a part in getting your journeyman license as well. Just add that in there. But so basically there's apprentices, and it starts out they also go in order from first year all the way up to fifth year apprentices, and that's kind of how you can uh I guess say what level of apprentice you are. And so first year being like the newest apprentice, you're brand new on the job kind of thing. And then fifth year being you're almost done with the program. But so apprentices, they work under journeymen, and the journeymen uh have finished their schooling and have all their hours required to get the journeyman license. And so journeymen are people who I guess essentially hold a state license with Colorado, and so that's where the company recognizes them. as being a qualified, competent electrician, and an apprentice is still getting there, learning up until that point. And so then the foreman, they basically they see over the journeyman and the apprentices, but it's goes in kind of a ladder essentially. So the foremen are laying out the journeyman for the day, saying this is what we have to do, this is how we need to do it, and then the journeyman will take that and then they'll lay out the apprentices and they work hand in hand with the apprentices. And that's kind of where the team comes into. Like there'll always be an apprentice with a journeyman. Like you'll never see an apprentice just kind of working on their own because it's a liability and they still need to learn. So it's that. And then as you go up, there's some foremen, journeymen, and apprentices are all in the field working. And then there's general foremen who oversee the foreman. And then there's superintendents, basically oversee the project and work with AC, which is the general contractor running the whole entire job with all the trades. And so it goes all the way up and works its way up into higher management as well. But
So you can work your way up if you wish.
yes, definitely.
That's great. That answers one of my questions that I had. So wonderful. What is the most dangerous part of your job?
The most dangerous, I would say, it would be working with live energy, and uh, I think that's a very obvious. Electricity is definitely dangerous, and we definitely come in contact with it. But more and more, especially in the industry today, is there's so many steps and safety procedures to take to even get your hands into a live, let's say, panel or anything that's going to require energized equipment. There's a lot of steps to get to that point because companies just don't want to risk that. So to me, really, with what day in day out for me is complacency. And it's just because you kind of get into things and you're like, oh, I've done this before, I've done this a million times, and falling into that trap of thinking, oh, I did it safe last time, I'll be fine this time. And I think that's kind of where, and that goes for any trade, is just kind of falling into the day in, day out routine and
Mhm.
not sitting back and thinking about the safety.
Right. Kind of being on autopilot. And
Exactly. Yeah.
you probably don't want to be daydreaming or thinking of other things while you're working with the wiring. You want to stay focused. So,
Yes, exactly.
oh, that's amazing. Um, what skills other than the technical skills do you think somebody should have? Um, should they have like other trades? Sometimes they'll say it's really required to have a lot of patience to work in this field, or this field is so active, it's better to be ADHD to be able to perform this job. So every job has skill sets that enhance the job. So I know communication, you must be good at communication with your apprentices and with the foreman. You're a team builder and team worker, good with teams. What else would you say to a high school student that the skills they need?
Yes, those are all good ones that you mentioned. And definitely that's day in, day out with people that you work with, and then also other trades. We all work together
Mhm.
to obviously get this job done. But I think the main thing is there's definitely, it's kind of, you have to keep your head up, uh, keep a good attitude. That goes a long way. Because sometimes, it's not always the easiest day or task that you're working on, but having that positive attitude, and maybe that plays into a little bit of like a leadership role, trying to keep people's morale going. You know, that goes a long way. Um, that's a good question. Patience being another huge one. It's a long journey, but it goes by really quickly as well. So
Yeah.
with the whole program, but
And what's the most rewarding part of your job? What do you find really rewarding and satisfying?
I think being able to just it's it's easy to kind of get caught up in, you've been doing something for a month, let's say, and you don't really get to see the progress and how far things are coming along. But then month by month, you'll slowly be able to see kind of it's a definite feeling of accomplishment with watching the project kind of come together and then actually seeing the end product of it all. Like it's accomplishing feeling to kind of walk away from a project like that and be able
Yeah.
to see it from start to finish. And just, I think there's a definite uh, satisfaction, I feel like, with being able to work with your hands and be able to work and see everything kind of and be in that atmosphere, I guess. But,
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. Describe the job you did at the hospital, or what kind of work do you do with a hospital? Do you work on the
um,
inside of the hospital or the outside, or
so
both?
for me, I was that was actually one of the briefer projects I was on, but it was we were installing a generator, so a diesel generator,
Oh,
which is it acts as like a they call it a UPS, which is an uninterrupted power supply. So if a hospital were to lose all of its power, it'll immediately kick over to the generator that'll turn on and then keep power going to that set building or hospital for however long they need it until power comes back on. But that was we were adding two more generators to their facility. They already had three. So that was kind of what it was. That's the cool thing with these jobs is that was one of the jobs that I was actually asked about. I was already on a different project and they asked me to come work the weekend and we were doing a night shift on the weekend at that place at the hospital. So that was just kind of I was in there for like a few days, but it was still a really cool experience to get my
I
hands
bet.
on that.
Yeah, I bet. Well, students have asked a few questions. So if you're ready, I can ask you what they have asked. Um, one 14-year-old asks, do you work by yourself or in a team? And I think you've already answered that, but yeah, he wanted to know if you, or do you ever work by yourself, ever?
So I could add that in there. So like I said, where I'm at right now, I'm basically like I do a lot of new construction and new builds. And so that usually is very team focused and you will always be in a larger crew, I'd say. But like when I was in the data centers, it was just me and another journeyman at the time. And it was just us two. And we had 5 data centers under a scope. And so it was like that for about a year. And then while we were doing that, we actually our company has service van drivers, and so service side of electrical, uh, those guys all just drive a van and they work by themselves most of the time, or they'll come to a project and kind of add a little assistance if we need it. And so those guys are really kind of solo for the most part. And same with maintenance. If you wanted to go into a maintenance gig for a facility and be the maintenance electrician just for that site, you're essentially kind of your own guy at that point. But so there's different ways you can kind of go that you would be solo, but for the most part, it's all teams. But
Teamwork. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, thank you. A 16-year-old asks, what safety precautions do you have to take? And what are the dangers? So, what are the precautions you have to take?
So that's a good one because there's quite a few safety precautions that come into play and it's ever changing really. But our company, and I know it's become quite the norm throughout all the industry, but it's a JHA, which is a job hazard analysis, and every company is kind of expected to fill that out with the crew. And so everybody's there, you discuss what you're going to do that day, and you tell, or you just basically list out the safety hazards you see that can come up. And so that way you're just kind of keeping your in the forefront of your head at that point. It's kind of like the protocol that we take even if we're just going to switch tasks. So if we may have done the JHA that morning and this is what we're kind of thinking we're going to do today, but something we have to put out this fire over here, something popped up, and so we have to go do that. Usually we try to step back for a second and go through what we need to think about in terms of safety, in terms of material, the process of how we're going to get it done. And that's kind of how we break that all down to realize these safety precautions and kind of bring those to the forefront. But
Right, right. Yeah, I would, yeah, working with electricity, there's got to be a lot
and
of precautions.
yeah, yes, exactly. And to get specific, yeah, electricity being one of the main things. And there's also you're using power tools and machinery, and there's all sorts of different, and we actually have it's a safety wheel is what we call it. So it has different like stored energies that you kind of like identify that would be a part of your working task for that day. So that way we're also acknowledging those, hazards essentially. So but
Incredible.
electricity being one of the biggest for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I admire you. Wow. Uh, the next is age 17, and he asked, do you need any college classes to become an electrician? And how many years does it take before you are certified?
So that's where for me, essentially my apprenticeship, and because it is with the union, I guess it's a little different. And that's kind of where like the non-union side, you do go, they have classes and they're pretty much the same exact curriculum that we learn in our trade school apprenticeship.
Mhm.
Uh, but you just pay for those classes through a community college and rather than through the apprenticeship, I guess, if that makes sense. But so yes, you do need college course classes, but it's not like pursuing a bachelor's degree, let's say. It'll come out in the end of that with that amount of credits pretty much, but it's hard for me, I guess, with my experience because I did a little differently with the trade school side, but you can go and take college courses and you have to, and it is a 5-year program. So
5 years. Great. The next question is, from a 21-year-old. She asks, what does the future hold for the career? And would AI take over in any way?
the I think the future, and we kind of discussed a little bit, but it definitely holds quite a bit. I feel like whether it is you want to take the route of going towards management and go up that chain, whether you want to maybe go towards the service side and go that way or maintenance, or this can even lead to starting your own company essentially if you want to go down that route. So there's definitely many routes you can take. And so I feel like the opportunities out there are definitely abundant with pursuing this. And it doesn't just end at being a journeyman essentially. But in terms of AI, I don't know too much about that, but I do believe that for what we do, I think there's a lot of like variables within our work that we do that can be automated, but I don't believe that the whole scope of what we do will ever be completely lost in that.
I would think there would always be the human component. There always has to be a human on site
Exactly. Yeah.
to work um, with the electricity. So, and that's good to know. A girl named age 11. Um, if you are scared of heights, can you still be an electrician?
Yes, you definitely can still be an electrician if you're scared of heights. I actually was definitely terrified of heights when I first got in, and 5 years later, I've kind of grown into accepting it a little bit. But there's no shame if you don't want to go up on a boom lift, let's say, or something above a certain amount of feet. There's other people. That's why we're a team. There's somebody on the team that will be hopefully more apt to doing that. And I've actually been on a crew where we had one of my coworkers was definitely like did not even want to get 10 feet off the ground kind of thing. And so, but there nobody shamed him and it was not a big deal. It was just like, okay, let's just switch tasks around. And there's always an answer to, I guess, the problem.
Good to know. Um, let's see. Oh, and a 14-year-old asks, are there different types of electricians for various jobs? Like a house electrician that only works in homes, and then a different kind of electrician for overhead wires, and a different electrician for underground work. Are there specifically different electricians for different jobs?
Yeah, so basically the way we refer to it as the electrician that works on homes is a residential electrician. They are definitely different from where I'm at. That's where it goes like residential, and then there's the commercial industrial, which is where I'm at. And
Mhm.
then the electricians that work on, let's say, your overhead power lines, those are linemen. And so that's kind of like how they separate us essentially. And then in terms of underground, that's kind of where us and linemen, because a lot of linemen have underground feeds as well. Instead of having them up on a pole, they also work on underground electricity. So we kind of share that portion of things, but I do see a lot of underground work. I have done it in my career. So that's basically kind of like the three categories. You have your residential, commercial, industrial, and your high voltage linemen that
Mhm.
work on overlines.
So you said you're working on new construction. That's different than residential? Is that?
Yeah, so in a sense, it is. For me, I guess in the industrial commercial world is where I'm at, new construction, where residential, they have their new builds as well, like new homes coming up. That's new construction for them as well. But for us, it's more like let's say like a food distribution or something like that. That's if that
Oh,
was to be a brand new build, that's where I would go to essentially if
got
they
it.
needed.
I understand. And you work on big businesses and commercial businesses and yeah, good,
Yeah, exactly.
great. Oh, wonderful. And I think those are all the questions that the students had, but I'd love to end with three questions. In general, what advice would you give young people today?
Um, I would say just there's a lot of options out there, and it's easy right now where you're at to kind of get a little overwhelmed with thinking of like the rest of your life or whatever, but just kind of take it bit by bit and dip your toe here, dip your toe there, just give things a try, I'd say. I think that's really what helped me. I was very hesitant on ever doing this and choosing this as my path, but my dad kind of was like, "Hey, give it a try." And I just said, I got nothing to lose. I'm young. I might as well try something new. And you never know, you might end up really liking it. And so that's kind of where, keep your options open and keep your head up. If something doesn't work out, don't be discouraged. It's life and keep moving. But
Good advice. The second question is, what gives you hope?
um, I think I think that just I like to be in the present, but also having goals and aspirations and kind of looking to the future and kind of trying to see how I want to shape and mold that kind of, I guess, I don't know if that's the right way to answer it, if that gives me hope, but it definitely kind of gives me drive, keeps me going, and keeps me motivated, and
Yeah,
definitely gives me some hope that there's good to come, I guess. But,
yeah, yeah. Good, great. And who inspires you?
oh, it's a lot of people that inspire me, actually. I'd have to say definitely my dad for sure. A big proponent in my life of
Mhm.
inspiration. And I know there's definitely just friends and family. There's so many people that definitely bring different pieces of inspiration to me. So it'd be hard to narrow it down to one, but yeah, it's definitely I think I have a really good group of friends and family around me. It's gonna
Yeah.
keep me going and keep me afloat. So
It's great to have friends and family support you and give you that foundation. So
yeah, exactly.
sounds like you've had a wonderful family around you. That's great. That's
Definitely.
great. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell the high school students about anything, your job? Is there anything um, that you feel needs to be covered?
Um, I really think just other than I guess the fact that, I mean, the trades themselves are kind of becoming like a lost art or dying art, I've heard people say, and it's there definitely are numbers that kind of prove that there's a very like a lot of people are retiring and not a lot of people are kind of coming back in to fill the space of all the knowledge and older generations that are kind of going on with their life. And so it's kind of where I'm like, I think there's a lot to come for this industry down the road with just even that little tidbit with just the fact that there will be a need for tradesmen and tradeswomen. And so I think
Right.
that's something to keep in mind.
Is there is there a shortage of electricians right now?
So yeah, it seems through my 5 or 6 years that it seems to be that it goes in a little bit of a wave, kind of like the job market will pick up and then it'll kind of plateau back out. But I mean, there's always been a need, I feel like, at least with our local and our apprenticeship to get people in. And we haven't had like a full like slowdown period where we don't need any. But I think this is just like the beginning. I think there's going to be more to come. I've even at my job site right now, we've had 3 guys retire just recently.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of like the trying to keep that balance, I think. So I think there is a wave to come essentially. But
And are there women? Do you work with women?
yes, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of women that I've worked with. And actually at my job right now we have 6 women, I believe. And so there's about I want to say 38 electricians in this job right now. So
Wow.
but there's a lot more. Like when I first started, even I think I worked with maybe 1 or 2 within like the first year. And now every job I've been on, there's at least been one or
Mhm.
two women there. So it's been cool to see. It's definitely a thing for
Oh,
changing.
that's inspirational. I'm glad to hear
Yeah.
there's more and more women coming into the field.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
Good to know. Oh, well, thank you, William. Thank you so much for your time, for your knowledge, and everybody, thank you for listening to this video, this interview. And high school students, if you're interested in the work, electrical work, and being an electrician, just contact me and I will hook you up with William and he'll be able to answer more questions for you. So everybody, thank you. I'd love to let you know to subscribe. All the information for One Voice for Change is below. Please like and subscribe this channel. And any information about William will be below also. So thank you again. And until next time, bye-bye.